What's up everybody, this is Dave here with Comics Games Life, and this is my video on Gotham by Gaslight. It was written by Brian Augustine, penciled by Mike Mignola, inked by P. Greg Russell, colored by David Hornung, and lettered by John Workman. Gotham by Gaslight is a retelling of the Batman origin story that takes place during the 19th century. The story opens up with Bruce Wayne describing a reoccurring dream that he has. He tells of his mother, his father, and himself riding in a horse-drawn carriage, and as they're galloping down the road, they see a lone figure standing in their path. Now he doesn't remember exactly how this happened, but he remembers being in the carriage and somehow standing outside the carriage. Now this thief has two guns drawn on them and demands their valuables, but Thomas Wayne resists and chooses to fight back, but is quickly killed along with his wife Martha. And before the killer turns his pistols on Bruce, due to the loud noise the gunshots made, a flurry of bats come out of the woods and surrounds this murderer, which causes him to get distracted, which saves the life of a young Bruce Wayne. Now the person he's telling this dream to is neurologist and founder of psychoanalysis Sigmund Freud. Now although Bruce is describing his dream, he's actually not a patient of Sigmund Freud. He actually traveled to Vienna, Austria to study under Sigmund Freud. Now he's been traveling around the world for the past 5 years, and at this point he's coming to the end of his crime fighting training. Now Sigmund Freud does want to break into Bruce's mind to see exactly what's going on and where these dreams are coming from, but he reiterates to the doctor that he's perfectly fine and he came here to study, not to be studied. And then they part ways because Bruce is on his way back to America. And as Bruce is on the ship taking him back to Gotham, he runs into an old friend of his father's, a man named Jacob Packer. And Bruce is quite fond of him because Jacob is kind of like a old country boy that always has something funny to say and kind of a thorn in the side to the upper class that take politeness and manners a little too seriously. And Bruce is especially happy to see him now because he's completed his training, and the only thing he can really think about is what he's going to do when he gets back to Gotham. The 15 years of preparation, the 5 years of travel, the suit and the gadgets that he's put together, the rage in his heart to protect the innocent and bring justice to the wicked. So during their boat ride back to America, they take on some pleasantries like having dinner with the captain and things like that. But once they land, they decide to part ways and wish each other off and hope to see each other again soon. Now as he says goodbye to one old timer, he says hello to another because Alfred is there to meet him. Now as they enter into Wayne Manor, Mike Mignola did an awesome job here with sketching the face of Bruce, in my opinion, because whereas he was happy and chipper when he was getting off the boat, now he's all business. And even walking inside, Alfred is stuttering, "Welcome home, sir. Master Wayne, perhaps a relaxing dinner and a bath." And Bruce just throws his coat to the ground and asks him, "Is it still here, Alfred? Is it still ready?" And they walk into a room where Batman's suit is on display. And Alfred says with a sigh, "Yes, sir. It's been waiting for you." So on this next page, we see a view of the city. And again, I want to compliment Mike Mignola on his artwork because I think it's top notch. If you guys don't know who that is, he's the creator of Hellboy, a highly popular character from Dark Horse Comics, which has spawned off several movies in the past. But about what we're seeing right here, I don't know if it's the pastel colors or the architecture in the buildings or the smoke coming off the chimneys, but looking at his artwork of Gotham City, it's like I can kind of smell that industrial, smoky, dank, sewery kind of city smell, you know? I don't know, I just might be weird, but that's totally what I'm getting from his images of Gotham City. So fresh off the boat, Bruce wastes no time in going to see his old friend, Jim Gordon. And elbow deep in some paperwork, he doesn't want to be disturbed, but as soon as he sees him, he just lights up with this giant smile. And they start to talk about the things going on in the city since he's been gone. And Gordon asks him what he plans on doing since he's back. And Bruce kind of gives just like a nonchalant answer saying, probably just hang out, dabble in some things here and there. And Jim goes on to describe how much the city's grown in the past decade. Skyscrapers, industry, the population, and unfortunately the criminal element as well. So much so that GCPD is having a difficult time keeping things under control. And then Gordon starts to describe the weirdness of the crimes they've been facing. Like for instance, this person they just arrested, he would marry rich old ladies, poison them to death, and inherit their fortunes. And he did it to 10 women so far. But when he was caught, he decided to off himself with his own poison. Unfortunately, he didn't take enough of it to kill him. He only took enough of it to paralyze his face. And by the look of this picture, we can pretty much tell who this character is supposed to be. Although he doesn't show up through the rest of the story, being as how this is such a unique book for its time, they had to throw the Joker in there somehow. Now that the sun is down and the moon is shining, the unsavory elements of Gotham rise to the surface, and the streets are flooded with thieves, killers, and prostitutes. Now, as we see by the words in these text boxes, we are now in the mind of Jack the Ripper, and he's looking at Gotham City like a fat, ripe fruit waiting to burst, and that this place is teeming with corruption and filth, and that this is more than he could have ever asked for. But then he notices the women of the night roaming the streets, and says to himself that to his his horror, she is also here, everywhere, mocking him, laughing at him, and everywhere he turns, there she is. He can't escape her, and that he can see through her disguise, and that awful laugh will drive him mad, and he has to put an end to it again. And on the same night, in a different part of the city, we see a burglary taking place, where we have a couple of bank robbers trying to break into a safe, and they've also taken a hostage, which seems to be some sort of night watchman. And on the top of the roof, they've posted a guard to keep a lookout in case there's any police in the area. Now, there aren't any police, but there is something else, as a shadow looms over the man, and the shadow moves with speed and precision and knocks him out. Now, unbeknownst to the men inside, just before they're about to blow the safe, our Caped Crusader crashes through the window. Now, these guys have no idea what's going on. This is Batman showing up for the first time. So not only are they surprised by someone jumping through a window, but also taken off guard by some guy in a suit with pointy ears. But they have barely any time to register that, because Batman's knocking him down, punching him in the face, and throwing him into walls. But the last man standing has a gun pointed to the guard, and although he's armed, he's shaking in his boots, because he's like, what am I looking at? Because the combination of the darkness of the shadows and the look of this costume, Batman looks like some kind of monster. And the last words of this armed robber is him pretty much begging for his life. Of course he doesn't kill him, but we do see the hostage no longer untied, and this time aiming the gun at the robber. And he's thanking Batman for saving his life. And then he asks him, like, what are you? And before he's able to finish his sentence, Batman disappears into the night. Now, over the next few pages, we see Batman stopping robberies and assaults, beating up bad guys, with newspaper clippings describing his exploits. But not only his, but we find articles of bodies being discovered, of young women brutally slain. Now, with the crime fighting and the women murdering happening during the nights around the same time period, people are starting to link these things together, and they're thinking that it's possible that this Batman or Bat creature is also doing these killings. Now, this isn't just the ranting and ravings of newspaper reporters. These thoughts are also in the minds of the people who run Gotham City. As we see Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon at some party for the upper crust, they overhear Commissioner Tolliver certain that if they catch this Batman, then they'll catch their killer. And then Gordon chimes in with, there really isn't any evidence saying that this Batman is responsible for these killings. But Tolliver wants to hear nothing of it and states that lunatics will not walk the streets of his city. Now, while the rich are whining and dining with one another, in the gaslit, foggy streets of Gotham, the Ripper has found his next victim. And as we peer into his mind, he's telling himself, I found her. Again. And he says he thought he rid himself of her mockery, that how many times will he have to cut her throat for the laughter to stop? And yet here she is. She's taunted me in London and she's followed me to Gotham. But no matter, because this is easy work, a task that I very much enjoy. Now, as the word travels through the grapevine from London to Gotham, the name Jack the Ripper is being spoken on the lips of a fearful public once again. Now, something that has plagued Batman, no matter what era he's in, is that he can't be in two places at once. Now, people can see and talk to Bruce Wayne during the day, but every time at night, for some reason, he's always out, and no one knows where he is. And Jim Gordon has come by multiple times at this point to kind of check on him, see how he's doing, maybe even get his insight on some things. Now, that's starting to turn the gears in Gordon's mind. Now, he's really starting to wonder, what exactly is he up to? As we see Batman crouching atop a chimney with cape flowing in the wind, he's just contemplating. He's thinking about, is what he's doing really working? Should he have gone on this mission in this particular manner? Because he's certainly struck fear in the heart of criminals, but he's also put worry and fear into the hearts of the civilians of the city. They don't know what to make of him. Especially people are starting to get the idea that Batman and Jack the Ripper are the same person. And he thinks it would definitely be easier once he stops the Ripper, but will that mystery and fear that he's created stop as well? And just then he hears the cries of a woman screaming in a nearby alley, and he runs leaping from rooftop to rooftop, but he's too far and he doesn't make it in time, and the woman suffers a tragic end at the knife edge of the Ripper. And with nearly being caught, the boldness starts to manifest in the Ripper. Now he starts sending postcards to GCPD, boasting about what he's going to do and how they can't stop him. Now, with Gordon stressed at the state of this investigation because he has no witnesses, no leads, and no hope. But then Commissioner Tolliver walks into Gordon's office with the biggest grin he can muster and says, Jim, we have our man. Now go get your coat. We're off to Wayne Manor. Let's find out how our friend Bruce likes to spend his nights. Now, the GCPD has flooded Wayne Manor. They're turning everything upside down. They're checking every drawer, searching every room. And Gordon's telling Bruce, I'm so sorry that the commissioner thinks you're the Ripper. And Bruce tells Gordon that he has nothing to hide and they're more than welcome to search. And then Alfred whispers, nothing, sir? And Bruce responds with, oh, if you're referring to my evening clothes, I have them in a safe place. Giving a nod, wink, wink over to the grandfather clock, which also happens to be the entrance to the Batcave. Now, Bruce calmly goes back to eating his breakfast because he has nothing to hide. Obviously, he knows he's not the Ripper. But in comes Gordon, Alfred, and Tolliver. And Bruce kind of jokes, gentlemen, why the sad faces? Are you disappointed you didn't find anything? Try not to take your disappointment so harshly. And then Gordon stammers, Bruce, how did you... Why? And Bruce, confused, saying, Jim, I don't understand what's wrong. I'm afraid you're going to have to come with us, Bruce. Tolliver wants to know how you thought you can hide these. Now immediately the trial of Bruce Wayne begins. Now describing the comings and goings of the case is the inner monologue of Bruce Wayne. And he says, on October 9th my trial began, and the court was packed with a curious multitude. The indictment against me for the murders of the women was read, but Uncle Jake, as my acting counsel, assures me that their case is weak and guarantees him a speedy acquittal. Now Uncle Jake he's referring to is Jacob Packer, the elderly gentleman that he met on the boat on the way from London to Gotham. Now a familiar prosecutor who goes by the name of Harvey Dent called Bruce a murderous monster 4 times and a bloodlusting maniac twice. And Bruce ends his thought with, I had thought Harvey and I were friends. Now on October 12th, the prosecution brought out a witness who says that they saw Bruce Wayne with a knife in his hands standing over the body of a murdered woman. However, everyone can see that this woman is a drunk, and Bruce is sure that the jury can see through this. And he's thinking to himself that Tolliver must be desperate for a scapegoat for these murders, so when I'm actually acquitted, I must capture the Ripper immediately to truly end this massacre. Now October 15th, Tolliver takes the stand, and he makes the case that the murders happening in London were happening at the same time that Bruce Wayne was also in London, and the murders in Gotham are happening at the same time Bruce Wayne comes back into Gotham. And he also states that Bruce Wayne is frequently gone during the evenings, no one knows where his whereabouts are, and he makes the connection that since his father was a doctor, he must have had some sort of training with the use of a scalpel. Now on October 17th is the day of the closing arguments. The prosecution tells the jury that they must find him guilty. However, Uncle Jake passionately hammered away and poked holes in the case of the prosecution, cited all the inconsistencies, and pointing out that Tolliver was just trying to find someone to pin these murders on. Now Bruce Wayne is confident they're going to let him go, and Alfred leans over to him and whispers, shouldn't you just tell them that you're Batman? Then they would know that you were in different parts of the city when these murders were happening due to the testimonies of the people that you saved. And Bruce, he considers that, but then he says the public doesn't really know the difference between the Ripper and the Batman, and he would think that the public would see that as a confession of guilt, or that they think he's insane. And last thing he says, besides, I don't need to do that because they have no case. Then on the front page of the Gotham Guardian, in big bold letters, it states, Bruce Wayne is Jack the Ripper, millionaire sentenced to hang. So while Bruce obviously didn't kill those people, however, he is guilty of misplaced confidence, and now we see him rotting in a cell in Arkham Asylum. But Gordon still has his back. Gordon still believes that Bruce didn't do this, so he gives Bruce a file that he requested, everything they have on the Ripper killings. And Bruce gives Gordon his appreciation because he knows that Tolliver would not stand for this, and Gordon fires back saying that Bruce, this whole thing is absurd. There's no way you're a killer. You're the sanest man I know. And Bruce hopes he's right, and he says, I'll work on this while I'm in my cell, but if you believe my innocence, that means the real killer is still on the loose, so you have to watch the streets. In the next panel, it shows a gas lamp lit street of Gotham, and then we see a shadowy figure staring at a woman like a predator to his prey, telling himself, soon. Because the Ripper is aware of what's going on, he knows that if he kills somebody while Bruce Wayne is locked up, then they know that Bruce is not the actual killer, and they'll let him go, which means they're going to be back on the hunt for the real Ripper. So he has to slow his roll, sheath his knife, and wait for his next time to strike. But in the meantime, we're seeing Bruce in his cell. And just like the court case, we see the inner monologue of Bruce as the days go by. And time is of the essence because they're going to hang him soon. And he's combing over this file because he must find an answer or a clue to the true identity of Jack the Ripper. That's the only way he's going to escape the gallows. And on one of the days, Jacob stops by to tell him that his appeal was denied, and you're set to hang in 5 days. And Bruce is repeatedly going over this file. He's poring over books that might give him some sort of insight into this case, and he beats himself up because while he was in London, he wished he would have paid more attention to the Ripper murders while he was there. And on the day before he's set to hang, we see his cell just covered in notes and pictures and diagrams, all of that leading to nothing. Nothing. Nothing! He screams as he throws a book out of frustration, with pages flying around the air, floating down to the ground. Bruce falls to his knees in defeat, and in like every comic, novel, and movie, when the hero is just about to face their demise, right before the clock strikes 12, there's that aha moment, that light bulb of clarity, that spark, that break in the case that seemingly wanted to stay hidden until the right moment. And there it is, staring at Bruce in the face. He sees a picture of his father's old Civil War medical detachment, and he sees that there's a symbol on the flag of the regiment, and with tired eyes he scans the wall covered in notes until he finds it there, right there, on the hilt of the scalpel blade that was found at one of the scenes. That same symbol. And he says to himself, this knife, it belongs to my father, but he's dead, long gone. There's no way. Even the others are gone, except, and that's when he sees it. And immediately he summons Alfred to come visit him. And Alfred makes his way to the cell and he says, Sir, are you there? So this is the cool thing, because even though this is the 19th century, this is still Batman. This is still that Dark Knight that we all know and love. Because as Alfred is asking Bruce if he's there, Bruce is whispering back to Alfred, saying, "Only briefly, Alfred, I already opened the door. I need your help. I'm leaving." So this whole time he's been locked up, he totally could have escaped. He just stayed in there, pining over all the material, searching through the evidence, trying to see if he can solve the killer's identity while he's in his cell. Well, also the fact that if he does escape, then they're really going to pin these murders on him. But regardless, it's so awesome he could have just left whenever he wanted. So he comes up with this quick plan to change places with Alfred. So while the guard's not looking, Alfred hops into the cell, Bruce jumps into Alfred's clothes, and off he goes, because that night he's going to catch a madman. Because that madman is out and about. Seeing as how Bruce is set to hang the very next day, there's no reason why the killer cannot go forth and start slashing throats tonight. So as the Ripper finds his next target, he's about to strike, but then he stops at the sight of Batman. And for all of his tough talk, for all of his threats, for all the murders he's gotten away with, he runs like a coward, screaming, "No, no, no." We see him making his way through the empty streets until finally he falls tired against a gas lamp light post, breathing heavily, thinking that he got away from Batman. And just then he hears a voice, "Run." And panic-stricken, he moves as quickly as his legs will carry him, screaming, "Leave me alone! Leave me alone!" And in his frantic state, he was able to grab a piece of wood and swing it at Batman and nail him in the face. And Batman looks up, blood dripping from his forehead, telling him, "Go ahead, run. You will not get away." And then out of the darkened alley where the Ripper ran into, we see two horses come straight for Batman, followed by a stagecoach. And he's whipping at these horses, commanding them to move faster and faster. But then he looks back, and obviously where he got those horses, there were more horses, because we see Batman on a steed of his own. And as he gets close enough, he leaps onto the stagecoach, where the Ripper loses control and the whole thing comes tumbling over. And as the killer is lying on the ground, stunned from the crash, Batman grabs him by the coat and picks him up and says, "You're not going anywhere, Jacob Packer." And he throws him to the ground. Coincidentally, they actually stumbled their way into Gotham cemetery, and Batman questions him, "Why? Why did you kill all those women?" And Jacob weakly says, I had to stop that laughter." And Batman's like, whose laughter?" And Jacob looks at him and says, Martha Wayne." And now we get a flashback, and we see a younger version of Bruce's parents, as well as a younger version of Jacob Packer. And he goes on to explain that during his time in the Civil War, he assisted Dr. Thomas Wayne, and the two became friends, so much so that Thomas introduced him to high society, and Jacob's thrown off by this a little because he's just some farmer's kid from Pennsylvania. But Tom had always been so generous to him, so much so that he even put Jacob through medical school. The problem is, Jacob didn't have what it takes to actually become a doctor. So instead, Thomas paid his way through law school, where he did graduate, although it was at the bottom of his class. And Thomas Wayne pretty much funded his whole practice. He gave him clients and anything he would ever need, and even made him the family's solicitor. But instead of seeing those as loving, friendly gestures, he just thought that Thomas was arrogant. And not only that, Jacob was secretly in love with Martha. And one day he confessed that love to her. And she of course rejected him. He said that she laughed, ridiculed, and mocked him. And her laugh has always haunted him since. And he was saying that Tom knew it also, but he didn't say anything, and that he was probably laughing at him too behind his back. All of them were telling him that he wasn't good enough. Now, I don't know if they were actually saying this, or that this was something going on in the mind of Jacob, because obviously at some point his sanity broke. And then he goes on to say that every night she's laughing at him. She's following him from Europe to London to Whitechapel to Gotham, just laughing. And he says, and even after I hired a man to kill her, he said the kid got away, but I fixed him before he could start laughing too. And that's when Batman cuts him off and says, "Packer." And he pulls off his cowl. "I'm not laughing." And Packer looks up with shock and says, Bruce, I didn't know, Bruce." And then Batman drags him over to the tombstone of his parents and tells him, "You killed my parents. You killed those women. You framed me for your crimes. I should kill you." And Packer is there like a wounded animal saying, yes, kill me. And just over the hill, we see Gordon with a slew of officers making their way towards them. And as they approach the tombstone, all they can see is what the light from their lanterns is showing. So even though Batman has his mask off, due to the darkness and the shadows from the surrounding trees, they can't tell who he is. And he goes on to tell them that this man is the Ripper. He's the one who slaughtered those women. His name is Jacob Packer. And then a weakened Jacob starts to make his confession, saying that I'm your man. I'm the one who killed the women here and in London, and even killed some in Paris that no one ever connected. I've been very bad. Yes, indeedy, very, very bad. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. And he slashes at Batman's chest, and then Gordon fires and kills Jacob dead where he stands. And then Batman gives his thanks to Gordon, and Gordon's still confused, saying, what was this all about? Why was he killing all those women? And then Batman says, who truly understands the actions of a madman? Do you have enough evidence to release Wayne? And Gordon's like, yes, but you, I am leaving. And then off into the darkness he goes. And then the officers who were there, they're asking Gordon, should we stop him? And then Gordon just says, I doubt that we even could. No, just let him go. Because for good or bad, it appears that Gotham has found its guardian angel. And God help us, I suspect we're going to need him. Now that is the end of Batman Gotham by Gaslight. A classic Batman story. Is just as good when I read it like 30 years ago as it is today. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. Now, Brian Augustine did write another Batman story that took place in this time period called The Master of the Future. I do plan on doing a video on that story sometime soon. But in case you missed it, the first issue of Gotham by Gaslight Volume 2 came out last month in June, titled The Kryptonian Age. And issue number 2 came out this week as well. So head on down to your local comic and game shop, pick up those issues, scour through the back issue boxes to fill holes in your collection, and maybe even pick up some Universes Beyond Assassin's Creed Magic the Gathering cards. But however you want to do it, always continue to support your local comic and game shop. I love, appreciate, and thank all of you who are out there listening. By all means, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.